Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Sunday. I'm gonna go ahead and set up this room real quick and then we can get started. So let me just finish setting up this room and I'll be setting out the link and then everyone can hop on in. So let me just get this going real quick. All right, today's the 21st. I'm just ready to go. Let's finish this up right here. All right, cool. Everything looks solid. Let me just send out these links real quick, guys, and then we can kick this off. That's done. All right, so activate the chat, guys. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to be sending out this link real quick, and we should be good to go. So let me just send this link out. Chart analysis. Send this out to the rest of the groups. All right, let me post it on our Facebook real quick and to the rest of the emails. Let me just send this out real quick, guys. I don't know why that happened. It copied the wrong link on here. Let's get this real quick. That's weird. Yeah, I don't know why it shows up like that. All good. Got that set up right there. Make sure I'm sending out the proper link. And then one last place, I'm gonna send it out to our Facebook and our Instagram, and then we should be good to go. Get there on the Facebook, a couple of places, the Instagram, and it should be solid. Screenshot that. Copy this real quick. Share a link on there. Swipe up button real quick. All right, for the most part, I think we're good. Let me just get this on the Instagram live real quick, guys, and then we can start this off. Just 1 second. In. All right, so it looks like I'm live, guys. So let me just set this up real quick. We got the Instagram going, we got the Facebook going. Everything looks pretty good so far. So let me just check the chat real quick, see what's going on over here, and then we can kick this off. Yeah, let me get the Zoom link for you guys in the premium as well. All right, there you go. There you go, you guys. So everything's pretty much good to go for the most part. Links are sent out. Let me check the chat real quick. Hey Ryan, hey Marispa, hey Orborn, hey Steve Suk, hey Cameron, hey Yonan, hey Karen, hey Mark. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. This weekend was pretty quick, you know, but I'm ready to get back into these profits. So let me go ahead and let everybody into the Zoom real quick, and we'll try to catch some scalps here. So we did catch some scalps to kick off the trading week. Looks like I missed this one over here. We probably could have taken this sell, but I'm probably gonna hold off for a bit because you know, the market's starting to get a little choppy as everything continues to open up. But if you guys took the US 30 trades that I called earlier, you know, obviously I took a buy and a sell. The first sell was a loss. It was a small loss, and then we took it back on here for a sorry guys, I just turned my video back on. Thanks Ivan for letting me know that I wasn't working. So I just on. All right, cool. So we're good on that. Other than that, yeah, but like I just mentioned, guys, we took I took one sell here for a scalp. It was just a test move. Took the sell, took a small loss off that, and then we took the opposite trade over here. You know, once we hit stop loss, and then we hit full TP on that. So on that first trade right there, I lost about 529 off that first sell, and then I took a buy where I made 971, and then I took another buy after that for 400. So I'm in total for profit for today, 823.23 for that first account. And then I took it on my second account as well, where I made 712 over here. So, you know, adding those up for the day, I'm kicking off this week with profit for 823.23 plus 712.09 for a gain of 1,500. So I'm up 1,535 for the week, which is not bad at all. And, you know, we're hoping to catch on for some more trades. So obviously there was, I mean, there was a couple trades here you could have taken, you know, like I mentioned. When the market gets choppy like this, where the pivots start to cross over, this is where I don't want to trade. I want to trade when it's like moving smoothly, like smooth sells here. Sorry, let me close this. Like smooth sells here, smooth buys over here. But once price starts to get choppy, like it does right here, this is where you know, I kind of want to be a little careful because you know, you can get caught in a lot of whipsaw action right here. So right here, I don't want to trade. For example, again, right here, I don't want to trade here as well. I want to wait for this to smoothen out. Once it smoothens out, we can take more trades. But for now, I'm just going to chill for a bit because right here, obviously, too risky. And then same situation over here, you know, too risky down here as well when it's too choppy because price can go in either direction. But, you know, overall for the day, or yeah, for the week overall, I guess, since this is a brand new week, I'm in profit pretty nice. And, you know, we want to hope to continue that as the week continues on. So, let me just check the chat again real quick. See, Ivan said my video is not working, or maybe it is working. I don't know. You guys can confirm. I think my video is working. I'm just not sure if it's showing for everybody. But I think overall, I think it's good. So I just opened mine real quick. Looks like we're good right here. But yeah, Ivan, thanks for letting me know. Other than that, I think we're good. So let me just check the chat real quick. See what else we got over here. All right, cool. So Steve said, all right, let's hope the market makers take this week off so we can all have an amazing week. Yeah, definitely, right, Sisu? Or we're probably going to hop in with them as well once they start to smoothen out price for US 30. Nice. You know, it's a good morning. Let's get this week going. All right, cool. So I sent out the Zoom link to you guys. And other than that, I think we're good to go. So if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like the stream, that'll definitely help. You know, so we can continue to find more people that want to profit with us because obviously we trade live every day. You know, it's been a good ride so far. So I'm going to continue to keep doing this. And I'm going to start looking for some more trades. So like I mentioned, you know, price is kind of choppy right here, but there is a couple of sells here that are actually available. Like if this closes right here, this would probably be a sell scalp right here. But like I mentioned, I'm going to wait for this to smoothen out before I take any more trades. I'm pretty happy and content with my profits so far. You know, so far we have one minor loss here and 2 wins there. So like I added that up for you guys right here, and that's how much profit I have right there. And you know, for the people that want to question, you know, the live trades that I'm taking, and I'm just messing with you guys. You know, obviously if you guys have been here for a bit, you guys know that I do take these trades on my own account. I'm not just calling like random signals. I'll just show you my MT4 real quick. So here's the trades real quick for today. So obviously this is my FTMO account. You know, obviously you can see right
Shawn
here.
is 30 years old.
Last week made about 2,000 off that trade. 327. This first loss today, 519. So you can see that it matches up with my trades right here, right? 519 loss,
Born in
902 win right there,
I don't
and
know.
another 348 win right there. So, you know, I'm just going to show you guys. I'm trying to be 100% transparent with you guys for the people that select the question, whether these trades are, you know, being taken or if I'm just calling random trades. Obviously, all the trades I call I actually take.
He makes
so
a lot more money.
Just confirmation there for you guys if you guys are wondering.
Like
but other than that, I think that's about it for now. Let me see if there's anything else before, you know, we continue on. So yeah, the chat's pretty much clear right now. So if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You know, otherwise, I'm just going to be preparing for the week. So I did take those scalps earlier this evening, but I'm going to be looking for some more trades as well for Forex and for the other trades as well. So I forgot who messaged me about this earlier. James, sorry, I see your message right here, but I haven't looked at it yet, but I will look at it shortly. So Eunice, I don't know if you're in this live stream right now, but Eunice, he just signed up for premium. He got the K2 indicators and he spotted this trade right here, right? For Aussie USD for a buy using the intraday strategy. And I confirmed it with him. I said it was a good trade and all. So I just marked it up right here. I was like, yeah, it was a great call that he made. And I just pulled it up right here again, full TP. So Eunice, if you took that trade, you just hit full TP off that. So congrats off that trade if you held on to it to full TP. But it looks like a good trade so far. You caught that right on point. We had the buy signal here. It matched the trend meter. So it's spot on. No zones nearby and straight to TP. So that looks good for the most part. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go down all the Forex pairs. I'm going to make sure that the zones are all proper so that we can start looking for Forex trades as well, because the 4-hour candle just closed right now for 6 p.m. So I'm going to be doing that. If you guys have any other questions, just put them in the chat and then I'll take a look as, we continue on. So let's see. Oh, my bad. I just saw Cam said to mute your chat. So let me just mute everybody in the chat real quick. Mute all. Other than that, I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to go down the Forex pairs first, make sure that the zones are proper, and then I'll keep bouncing back and forth between US 30 to see if there's, anything that we can possibly take here. There's technically an active entry right here for this one. If you guys took this sell, but like I mentioned, it's kind of risky right now because of how the market's moving. It's kind of choppy. We want this to smoothen out. So if I take off the candles here, you can see that the pivots here are kind of choppy, right? Because they're crossing over. You want to trade when price is moving smooth up, smooth down. When it's choppy, you want to wait for it to smoothen out again. So I'm not going to take any trades right now. I'm going to wait for it to push out a bit. So maybe an hour from now, we'll see how this pushes. I kind of want to see it push a little farther down. So I want it to push farther down. I want it to come back for a retest. And then as it comes back down, I'm going to take some more sells off that. So that's pretty much what we're looking for here. But other than that, I'm just going to be holding tight, guys, because, obviously the market's just opening. So everything's kind of choppy at this moment. So let's look at the Forex pairs. And then I'm going to draw these zones to make sure everything looks fine. So if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I'll look at anything that you guys want me to, since this is kind of a slow day. Sorry, guys. Just sneeze real quick so I had to mute myself. But anyway, so I'm going to start off with up here. I'm going to go down the watch list and I'm just going to mark up the zones to make sure everything is marked up proper for this week. So let me see if everything is pretty much the same. There's like no reason for me to go and redraw the zones. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to check to see if these zones are the same. If they're in the same place, there's just no reason for me to redraw them. So for example, here for odd CAD, it didn't really move much last week. So the zones are pretty much the same, but we need an upper zone. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go in the higher time frames to see if we can find an upper zone there. So we do have this zone right here, but we need something higher. So let me go ahead and mark this up right here. I'm gonna color this my normal color, red, and then we're gonna look for the higher ones over here as well. So yeah, it looks like odd CAD's got a long way to go before it reaches the next zone there. So that looks good for the most part. Going back on the 4-hour right here. there's just no entries. I mean, the trade is still running from last week, guys. So if you guys remember my analysis from last week, you know, we had the rejection off this point. We had the buy signal right here. And what we were waiting for is for price to break and close past structure like it did right here, right? As soon as it did that, obviously we take that buy entry right there to full TP. And then as soon as price broke and closed past structure again up here, you know, we would have anticipated price to continue up higher to the next zone right here. So it's got a long way to go until it reaches, you know, the next zone, which is like way up here. And that's probably where we're going to be looking for. It's about 150 pips up, but obviously we want some more zones to develop around this area so that we can just catch the retracement and the confirmation back up. But I think that's about it for odd CAD right here. Let me check the chat real quick if there's any other questions. So I just confirmed the zones for odd CAD. Let me go over here real quick. Let's see. We have one question from Harris. Harris is asking, K2, what do you think about odd USD and odd JPY? So let me go ahead and analyze that for you first. So I'm going to look at odd JPY first, since it's the first pair right here. And I'll give you guys, you know, the basic analysis that I do for every pair. So here's the naked chart here. The first thing I do is I turn on the K2SR indicator. Once we have this turned on, I'm going to draw my zones on the chart so you guys can see where the rejection points are. So we have this zone right here. This zone actually connects to this zone right here. So we're just going to make one big zone. We have another lower zone right here as well. And we have a couple more zones in this area over here as well. So I'm going to connect these right here. And just a reminder, guys, these zones are kind of relevant because price is so high up. So we're just going to draw these, you know, just for reference, but they're not really necessary. So once we have these zones drawn up, I'm going to go in the higher time frame to catch the upper zones. So it looks like for odd JPY, there's not really much where it currently is. So it's currently within a big zone right here, actually. Let me check this real quick. So this is actually one big zone right here. Price is currently at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a zone right there, zone of rejection right there, and a zone of rejection right there. I'm going to go back on the 4 hour over here. And just looking at this point here, so you saw how I drew those zones. I'm going to hide the K2SR indicator. And obviously we have a bullish bias here, right? We have a bullish bias because it's trending up pretty strong. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn on the momentum indicator. So right here we have a buy signal. So we have a bullish momentum here. You can also confirm that price actually broke and closed past this structure over here. So we have a rejection off this point. We have a buy signal right here. You know, obviously when that happens, we take the buy entry and then we ride that to the next zone up here, right? So we have that next zone up there for full TP. As soon as it breaks and closes past the next zone above here, this provides for another buy entry. So technically right now, this is a buy entry that's available at this time. You know, it's obviously within this area. We anticipate it to shoot up to this next zone up here. Maybe this is something that I'll call. So I'll go ahead and check the, strength of the currencies right now. And I'll see if the Aussie is really that strong. Maybe I'll call this for one of our signals right now. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to turn on the Aussie index to see how strong the Aussie dollar is. And then I'm going to turn on the Japanese index to identify how weak the Japanese index is. So for right here, obviously the Aussie index is super strong up, right? It's pushed up pretty heavily. So it's bullish. For the Japanese index over here, it's technically bearish, but it's pushing up as well. So this is kind of an iffy way to look at this because, you know, obviously we want, let me go on the lower time frames to see, because of the 4 hours, like obviously it's not as accurate. So like, looking at this right here, and not accurate as like, you know, long-term perspective, but we're looking for a short-term perspective if we decide to take this trade. So for example, right here, they're kind of just flat, right? They're both kind of just, I mean, obviously the Aussie index is bullish. The Japanese index is bearish, but it's attempting to swing up to the upside, right? Because you can see pushing above the pivots right here. So just looking at this is just too risky of a trade for me to take. Obviously I could probably see it push up from this point. So I'm not sure if you're in a buy, Harris, but if you are looking to enter a buy, you know, obviously this would be the setup right here, because we do have a rejection off this point, a buy signal, a broken close past structure right here. We would have rode this up to this point. And then again, the same pattern again right here, price broken close past structure. So we would anticipate this to push up to the next structure right here, where it can either break above it and continue up higher, or whether it will reject off this point and swing back down, right? So there's two different scenarios that can play out there, but obviously we have a bullish bias here. And looking at the indexes here, obviously the Aussie index is still strong, it's bullish, while the Japanese index is bearish because the current candle is red, while the Aussie index candle is green. Well, I mean, it's just stale right now, but the previous one was green. So just looking at this here, I think this is going to continue pushing up. So if you're in a buy, I think you're pretty solid. If you're in a sell, it's a little risky, but I mean, it can go either way. There's no, there's no set in stone direction that it's going to be moving in right now, due to how price is currently moving. So, just looking at this here, I mean, obviously we have a bullish bias for RJPY. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out within the next couple hours or so, because the Asian market just opened. We had the Aussie market opened at about 2 p.m. my time, about 4 hours ago. And then the Asian market just opened about 2 hours ago at 4 p.m. my time. So we'll see how this swings up. We're probably not going to get much movement until London session. So that's what you'll be waiting for the most part. So that's it for RJPY there. I'm going to move on to your next question. You were asking about Aussie Usd. So I'll pull up Aussie Usd right here. And then I'm going to delete everything off the chart, just like I did for RJPY. And then I'm going to, analyze this from scratch for you guys. So I'm going to take everything off the chart. There's the naked chart right there. The first thing I do is I turn on the K²SR indicator so I can draw these zones, and then we'll get started from there. So let me draw the zones from down here. We've got another zone right over here. Another zone. Actually, this zone's pretty big. So I'm just going to connect these together. We have another zone right here. Another zone down here. And like I mentioned before, guys, these zones down here are kind of relevant because price is so high up. I mean, they'll become relevant again if price ends up swinging back in that direction. But I mean, currently right now, they're just, they're pretty relevant at this point. So these are the zones from down here. Now we have to go on the higher time frame to grab the higher zones, so that we can identify where the ceiling is. So if we're taking some buys, we know exactly, where to exit the trade. So this is actually it's got a long way to go until you reach that, that next zone off the weekly. So there's a lot of open space right here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the momentum indicator to determine, what the bias is right here. So looking at this, we have a bullish bias, obviously, because the most recent signal was a buy signal right here. So we have a rejection off this point right here. We have the buy signal right here. We had price breaking close past this structure right here. So if you took this trade right here last week, I think this was on the 18th, so this was Thursday. If you took this trade right here, it looks like you would have hit full TP. Yeah, for about 67 pips right there. And the full move is going to be all the way up to the next structure up here. So it's probably going to keep pushing up. It might push up a little bit, retrace down slightly before, pushing up all the way up here. I probably wouldn't enter right now. It looks like it might be retracing a bit, but it's still got a long way to go to the next structure up there. About 158 pips. So also for this trade right here, Harris, I'm not sure if you're in a buy for Aussie USD, similar to RJPY, but the Aussie index is pretty strong right now. It's bullish. We're going to connect it with the dollar index so we can see the strength of both currencies, the DXY. So just looking at this here, I mean, the Aussie index is bullish. The DXY is attempting to swing up, but overall it's still bearish. So it's still coming down from this point right here. But other than that, it looks like my dog right here wants to play. It's my dog, Cody. You hear him growling in the background. Scratching me. All right, dude, go over there. All right, so just looking at the Aussie USD right here. So looking at this, basically, this is, I mean, it has a bullish bias, but like I mentioned, it's probably gonna have to retrace a little bit before it ends up swinging up. So I probably wouldn't enter this right now. I'd probably give it some time because this can easily swing down a bit. You don't want to enter too early and then it ends up swinging down. And then, you end up in some drawdown. So I would not enter this right now, to give it some time. And then just wait for this to provide for another entry, right? Because this just hit full TP right here. Generally, when this happens, it has to retrace back a little bit. And then new zones will probably get created around this area. But obviously, I see this having a bullish overall move. It still hasn't reached the weekly resistance up here. So it's still got some ways to go until it reaches that point. So just looking at this point here, this is the bias, but I wouldn't enter at this point. You'll see, if I do see an entry, I'll call an entry for you guys, but just right now, I just don't see anything worth taking for this. You know, when I do see it, I'll call it, but for right now, I think I would just hold off for some time until it ends up confirming. So that's it for Aussie USD. We just looked at Cad Jpy and Aussie USD. They both look bullish. So if you're looking to take these trades, you know, Cad Jpy right here, bullish, Aussie USD bullish overall. But currently right now, I just wouldn't take these trades because you got to wait for the market to stabilize a bit before you enter these trades, because this can pull back quite a bit before it ends up swinging upwards. Let me just check to see if there's any news today or this week, actually. All right, so it looks like there's no news today, but there is news tomorrow morning, 1 a.m. There's Euro news, the German IFO business climate, and then we have some more news in the afternoon for the NZD. So it looks like it's pretty clear for the most part. So we're probably not going to see too many crazy movements unless something happens that, you know, we're just not aware of. So that's it for Cad Jpy and Cad USD. The next thing we're going to look at is NZD JPY for BICO. So BICO, let me pull up NZD JPY for you real quick. All right, so it's pretty bullish right here. This is the same setup I set up from last week. This, hold up, let me just go back to this real quick. So BICO, I said, how did you come up with that TP on AU before the weekly zone? So BICO, the way that I usually determine where the swing is, so if the swing is too far off, so just going back to Cad USD, so generally the full move would be from here all the way up here, right? But this is way too big. I'm not going to go and risk, you know, this trade and take a trade from this entry point all the way up here for like 200 pips, right? So what I generally do is I let TradingView determine for me. So what I do is I just take it off right there. I'll just pull up the long tool right here, the long positioning tool. I'll just click where I want to enter that long position. So for example, if I replay this to this point over here, I will set my long positioning tool right there, and I'll let TradingView set it for me. Generally what TradingView does is when you set this long tool, it'll automatically set your TP stop loss to the previous swing, and it'll include the ATR in it, which is the average true range. So it gives you a pretty sweet spot, like a pretty good sweet spot as to, you know, where to enter the trade. So for example, here, if I use a long positioning tool, I place it right there, it sets it up for me right there, right? And then if you were to let it run, you know, it's like, it's literally on point. It gets it on point to the TP before it even happens. So that's generally how I would do it. Normally I would set it myself manually, but since, you know, I mentioned the weekly resistance is so far up, I wouldn't want to risk shooting for like 200 pips when I can just go for this and then just keep re-entering for more trades. And I'll show you another example right here as well. So that's one example for like that entry right there. And then again, for example, over here, if we were to enter a sell position, I'm just going to show you, you know, how it works in other directions as well. So here's Aussie USD again right here. And then in this situation, we would take the sell because we have the rejection off this point. We have the sell signal right here, and then it broke and closed past this structure down here, right? So if you were to take this trade, I'll do the same thing. Use a short positioning tool right there, set it right there, and then it sets it up for you, because what it does is it puts your stop loss at the previous swing, which would be right here, and then it includes the ATR, which is the average true range, so that you have a pretty good sweet spot as to, you know, which TP to shoot for. So if we were to let this run right here, it's right on point, right? It hits TP and then it reverses on you. So it's super on point. And that's just one tool that I like to use if I'm, you know, if I don't want to go set it manually. So that's pretty much how I set that up there, Pico. Hopefully that helps. And, you know, it'll help you set your TP stop loss if you don't know where to place it. So there you go with this right there. I just placed it again straight to TP and it hit TP before it ended up swinging back down. So you can use that for future reference. And that's pretty much how I set it if I don't set it manually. So that's about it for that. Now I'm going to look at your NZD JPY, Biko. So NZD JPY right here. This is the same situation. You know, it's the same pattern that I just showed you for Cad Jpy, for Cad USD. We have the rejection off this structure. We have the buy signal right here. Price broke and closed past this structure right here. And obviously it pushed up to this point right here, right? It's still pushing up to full TP. It hasn't hit yet. But I'm going to go ahead and analyze this from scratch just so we can see, you know, what was going on last week and what's to continue this week. So I'm going to delete everything off this chart. I'm going to turn everything off here. We have a naked chart. So once we, you know, if you guys followed my previous analysis, I'm going to zoom out from this point, turn on the K2SR indicator so we can identify the rejection points. And then I'm going to identify the zones. So we have a zone down here. We have a zone right here. We have another zone right here. And guys, it's funny because one of the guys, Gilbert, I don't know if you're in here right now, but Gilbert mentioned that I look kind of down in my in my live streams. And guys, I'm not trying to look down. I'm just focused, right? Because I'm trying to focus on the charts. So I'm not trying to look down. I'm just focused on the charts. Like I'm not sad or anything. I'm just here marking this stuff up. So just a reference for you guys that are wondering if I look too serious on the screen, it's because I'm focused on these charts, trying to mark up these zones and, looking for entries, obviously. So just to clear that up, if you guys are wondering, and thanks for checking up on me, Gilbert. We need more people like you. All right. Anyway, so that's it for NZD/JPY right here. We need these upper zones. We have these lower zones right here. I'm going to go on the higher time frames to identify these higher zones over here. So we got that set up right there. I'm going to go ahead and go on this weekly. So the next zone is pretty far up, guys. It's pretty far up from this point. And then I'll go back in this 4 hour and I'll show you how I analyzed this earlier. So it's the same analysis as we had last week. I'm going to turn on the momentum indicator right here. And then I'm going to pretty much mark it up like I did earlier. So it's same analysis because nothing really happened since then. We have the rejection from this point. We have the buy signal right here. It broke and closed past structure, and then it pushed up from that point, right? So if you saw this right here, you take a long position, it would have hit full TP right there. And if you didn't take that trade, there's another entry above here as well. So it's the same pattern. We have the break and close past structure over here. You take another long position right there. And then there's the position. It's still currently running. It hasn't hit full TP yet. But for the full move right here, Biko, I'm not sure if you're in a long position. I'm sure you are if you're following this, because I know you do have the indicators. If that was the case, the full move is going to be up here. So this is still currently running at this point, but I mean, there's still going to be, some point in time right here where we're going to be looking for this to possibly retrace. Because like I mentioned, the market just opened. So as the market opens, there's going to be back and forth movement until it ends up choosing, its direction. So at this point right here, we have this still currently active. If you took this position here, I don't think I called this last week, right? Let me just check real quick. NZD/JPY. Yeah, I don't think we called a trade last week. The last time we called NZD/JPY was on the 7th, so it's been a long time. I'm not sure why I didn't call this trade. I probably should have called it. Oh, it was on the 19th. So this trade actually happened on Friday. So that's why I didn't call this trade. We were waiting for it to break above it, but it didn't happen to break above until Friday. So that's why I didn't call this trade. But if you guys did take it, it's still currently active and on its way to TP. So that's pretty much it for NZD/JPY right here. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, that's pretty much my analysis from there. And I'm going to go take a look at US30 now to see if there's any other entries to take. So like I was mentioning earlier, guys, market's super choppy for US30. So I'm not going to take any trades right now. Like I mentioned, I want this to smoothen out a bit. Oh, Biko, okay. I'm Biko on YouTube, but Ogun on Telegram, just FYI. All right, Biko, good to know. Yeah, because I've seen you in the Telegram. I just didn't realize, because I've never seen your name on the Telegram, on the actual Telegram. So I didn't know who you were, but yeah, thanks for clearing that up. Now I know who you are. But yeah, looking at US30 here, like I mentioned earlier, guys, it's kind of choppy. Look at the pivots here. This is one way to determine whether the market's choppy or whether it's moving smoothly. So for right here, the pivots just keep crossing over, right? So at this point, I'm not going to take any trades. I'll take sells when it's coming down here. I'll take buys when it's spread out and moving up this way, right? But when it's choppy right here, I'm not taking any trades. I'm sitting out because I don't want to catch these moves when there's too much choppiness. Like for example, here, see how it's choppy? I don't want to take buys or sells here because it just goes back and forth. However, once it starts to smoothen out, like right here, I'll take some sells. Like for example, here, price comes down. If there was an entry, I'd take a sell. Same situation over here, vice versa. When price is moving up smoothly right here, then I'll take some buys right here, right? So there's a couple entries right here. If you took any of these entries, obviously they would have hit TP. But just looking at US30 right now, it's just way too choppy. It's not really worth taking because it's just too risky at this point. So once this smoothens out either upwards or downwards, that's when we'll start taking trades. But I think right now it's just going to keep bouncing back and forth at this point. So it's not really worth risking taking these trades right now. So that's it for US30 at this point. Other than that, I'm just going to go through the Forex pairs to analyze the zones so that I can start looking for entries. So let's go ahead and start off. I already went off odd CAD. I'm going to go over odd CHF real quick. I'm just going to make sure that these zones are not the same as last week, because if they are, there's no point in me, obviously redrawing them. So let me just hide this real quick. That looks good. This one just moved over a little bit, so I'm just going to delete this one and redraw that. So this one kind of spread out a little more right there. Let's look on the higher time frame to get these upper zones over here. So let me see, nothing there on the daily. The next step is a weekly. So it looks like price hasn't really moved very much, right? So that's pretty much it for odd CAD. Odd CHF, that looks fine to me. I'm gonna move on to the next one, odd JPY. I already analyzed that, so we're good. Odd NZD over here. I'm not sure if anyone took this trade here, but there's a bunch of new zones that were created. So I'm just gonna delete everything off the chart. I'm gonna zoom out from this point, and then I'm going to draw these zones for you guys here. So we got a lower zone right there. And if you guys want me to analyze anything more specifically for you, like if there's a trade that you're looking at, just put in the chat, any pair that you guys want me to look at. This analysis works for anything. It works for Forex, works for indices, works for commodities like gold and silver. It also works for crypto. So if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat and I can analyze anything for you guys. Because it's going to be a pretty slow night for the most part until, the market fully opens back up. So I'm just here to answer questions and help you guys out, to prepare you guys for this this trading week, obviously. So looking at this right here, odd NZD looks like it's stuck within these two zones. We have a bullish bias right here because we have a buy signal. What I'd be looking for here is we have the rejection off that point. We have the buy signal right here. I'm just waiting for price to break and close past this structure above here so that I can take a long position right there up to the next structure right here. So that's basically what I'm looking for here. If you guys go back to, the previous setups, it's the same pattern that just keeps repeating itself, right? We have the rejection from here. We have the buy signal right here. We have price breaking close past structure right here. Once that happens, it pushes up to this next structure up here, right? Straight up. And then again, right here, price broken close past structure again at this point. Then it just pushes up again right there. So it's just the same pattern repeating itself. We're just waiting for it to break and close above here. If this doesn't happen and it ends up coming down, so like say for example right here, price ends up coming down from this point and we get a sell signal, right? Because we do have a rejection right here and it is a brand new week. So if it comes down from this point, we get a sell signal and then it ends up closing below here. Then instead of taking that buy, we'll be taking a sell instead, right? It goes both ways. So like, for example, right here, we have the sample where it pushes up from this point. We just take buys. And then, in the opposite direction right here, we have a rejection off this point. We have a sell signal right here. It broke and closed past structure, pushed to the next structure, broke and closed past structure again right here. And then it just kept pushing down further and further, right? So it goes both ways. You don't have to just trade in one direction. Obviously, the market's always evolving. So wherever the bias is, that's what we'll be trading. And just looking at odd NZD right here, we're looking at the same thing as well. There's just nothing here really to really focus on until it, it ends up going up or going down. Because right here we have a bullish bias, but it hasn't broken close, past the structure. Once this happens, we'll take a buy. If it ends up coming down here, we'll take a sell. So we're taking it as it is, and we're going to, continue on as we follow price as it continues to move. So that's it for odd NZD right there. So we got a question from Ollie. Ollie wants me to take a look at GU. So just a reminder, guys, I left off on odd NZD, and I've already analyzed odd USD earlier, so I'm not going to reanalyze that. But the next one is GU for Ollie. Okay, cool. So this is the GU we took last week. I think I called this on Thursday, right? So I called this trade on Thursday. Let me just show you real quick. So I'm showing you that, all of these strategies that I'm showing you, they're the same strategies that I use myself. It's the same strategies that I use for all the signals. So if you guys want to learn how to apply all these trades right here, it's very simple. You guys have seen how I've analyzed everything. Just go on the website, k2trades.com, and then click on K2 strategy course here to get access to the indicators so that you guys can learn how to trade exactly how I do. And, you have the same results that we all yield here at K2. So just looking at GU here, this is the trade that I called last week. So I called this on the 18th on Thursday. I called this buy right here, right? So I said buy for GU. Took that trade right there. It ended up filling. I mean, it took a couple hours and then it finally filled right here and went straight to TP with like no drawdown. So it was a pretty nice trade that we took right here. And then I'll analyze it to see where else it's going, because I think the next zone is pretty high up, right? It's way up here. So it's still got some ways to go. It's got about over 100 pips, so 140 pips to go until it reaches the, I think this is the weekly resistance. But I'm going to go ahead and analyze this from scratch so that you guys can see, you know, what my thought process was behind taking that trade. So here's the naked chart right here. There's nothing on the chart. I turn on the K2SR indicator, and then the first thing I'm going to do is the same thing I do for every other pair. I'm going to go ahead and draw my zones so that you guys can see where these rejection points are. Because obviously, you know, this is probably one of the most important things to look for when you first analyze a pair, because obviously you don't want to be trading if it's near a rejection point, right? You don't want to enter a trade and then as soon as you enter, it reverses on you. Because I'm sure that's happened to you guys a lot, where you guys enter a trade and then it goes the complete opposite and you're like, what the heck, why did it go opposite? And odds are you were probably trading where a zone was located. So looking at GU right here, we have all of these lower zones. Once we have these checked off, we're going to go on the higher time frame. So that's it for GU on the 4 hour. We need to go on the higher time frame to get the higher zones. Nothing on the 8 hour, nothing on the daily. And there we go with the weekly. So for the weekly right here, the next zone is way up here. We'll go back on the 4 hour right here. Turn off the K2SRs because we have everything drawn up. Next thing I'm going to do is the same thing I do every other time. I turn on the momentum indicator right here. And then we identify the bias, right? Obviously right here, we have a bullish bias because we have a buy signal. There's nothing following that. So right here, you can see that we have a rejection point off here, this structure. We have a buy signal right here. And the same, you know, the same thing I've been looking at for every other pair. We wait for that break and close past structure. And then we take that long position right there. So this would be the full move for this one right here. Obviously, I cut it off at 50 pips because it was Friday. So I wanted to get out of that trade before market close. But it's still got a long way to go. You know, it's got to come up here and test this structure before it ends up coming down or continuing up higher. So I would hold off on entering any new trades for GU right now. Because like I mentioned, you know, once it pushes up high enough, I think my TP for the last one was 50 pips. So looking at this from, you know, our last trade last Thursday, it literally triggered our TP and then it came back down, right? Which is normal. It usually hits our TP, then it rejects off. That's why we try to be very on point with our entries here. But, you know, if I show you over here what we were looking at, the same pattern just repeated itself over here, right? We have the rejection off this point. We have the buy signal right here. It broke and closed past structure. And then from that point, it pushed up to this next structure up here, right? Same situation right here. Price broke and closed past structure. We have the rejection and we're anticipating it to push up to this point up here. But at this point, price might come down for a small little retracement before it ends up swinging back up right here. And that's why I wouldn't enter this trade just yet. I would give it some time to stabilize from the weekend. And then we can determine, you know, where it's going to be moving from that point. So yeah, Ali, I'm not sure if you're still in a buy or if you're looking at it from a different perspective, but I do have a bullish bias right here because the most recent signal was still a buy here. So until we get a sell, so for example here, if we get a sell signal, then yeah, it might be going for a retracement, but we don't have a sell signal right here, right? So we're still looking for a bullish bias right here because you can see last time right here. So for example, we had this buy signal came up, we had a sell signal retrace slightly before it came right back up. So just keep that in mind. But obviously right now for GU, we do have a bullish bias. So hopefully you're in this for a buy or you're looking at it for a buy. But if you're not in the trade, I would hold off on it for right now until, you know, there's some sort of better confirmation before you take this trade. Because obviously there's just no entry available at this point. So that's it for GU. For the next one, we have Cad Jpy for Mark. So Mark, let's pull up Cad Jpy for you. All right, Cad Jpy. So looking at this here, it looks like we still have this bullish bias, right? Just looking at this from last week's markup, these are the zones that I drew last week. It's the same pattern, right? We have the rejection from this point. We have the break and close past structure above here, plus this buy signal. So if you were to take this trade right here, long position, you know, up to, it would have hit full TP right here. And it's the same pattern that I mentioned, right? Hits full TP, retraces down slightly before it pushes all the way back up right here. because the full move is going to be at this next structure. It's going to reach this structure, and then at that point, it's either going to reject off it, or if it's going to, it can either reject off it or it can break through it and continue up higher. But I'm going to go ahead and analyze this from scratch so that we can see, where everything's moving now. But this is what we analyzed last week for this here. So you can see how I have everything marked up. I'm going to delete everything off the chart. Here is the naked chart right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and start off with the zones. So we turn on the K2SR indicator. First thing we're going to do is we're going to draw these zones on the chart for you. So right there, we have that lower zone. Down here, we have this zone over here. I'm just going to connect these because they're all overlapping. But generally, when the zones overlap, you can just create one big zone to just avoid all the noise, right? Because there's a lot of noise in the market when price is choppy. So just looking at Cad Jpy right here, here's all the zones on the 4-hour. We're going to go on the 8-hour to find the higher zone. Nothing there on the 8-hour. We'll go on the daily. Nothing there. We go on the weekly. And there we go. We have the next zone marked up here on the weekly chart. So this is the weekly resistance. We're going to go back on the 4-hour here. And there we go. We have the same zones that were drawn from last week, right? It hasn't really moved as much as it normally does. So from right here, we have a rejection off this point. I'll turn on the momentum indicator. And it's pretty much the same exact setup. So we have rejection from here. This is where it started. Rejection from this point. We had the buy signal right here. It broke and closed past this structure right here. So if you were to take this trade for Cad Jpy, obviously would have hit full TP there for 59 pips. And if you didn't take this trade right here, so for example, if you missed this trade right here, obviously this would hit full TP. You can see price come down, retest the structure for break and retest. We have another rejection off this point. We have this candle right here breaking close past the structure. With that said right there, it would provide for another buy entry, right? So for there, we'd enter another long position right here, and it would have hit full TP as well. So this TP would have matched up with this one. So if we took this one right here, it would have hit full TP. Again, with this one right here, full TP. But just looking at this from, the full analysis that I was just mentioning earlier, the full move is going to be up here. So it's still got a ways to go until it reaches that next resistance. But the same analysis that I've been going over from all the other pairs, it's going to have to retrace a bit, right? So it's probably going to retrace slightly right here before it ends up continuing up. So I probably wouldn't enter this just yet. I'd wait for some confirmation to enter this trade because obviously right now there's just no confirmation that it's going to continue up. This can easily come back down. And this is what you don't want to happen. You don't want to enter a long position and then it ends up coming down and retest the structure before it shoots right back up, right? Because this happens all the time, especially on market reopen. So I'd hold off on entering this trade right now, Mark, until we have full confirmation, because this entry right here already hit full TP. So this one right here hit full TP right there for 59 pips. And then again, same situation right here. This entry hit full TP here again as well, right there. So I would just wait for a bit for some confirmation. Probably as the market continues to move, we'll have some zones created within this area. And then once that happens, we can wait for another breaking close past the structure and then just write it up to the next structure up here, right? So that's pretty much it for Cad Jpy. Other than that, I think that's it for the questions. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat and then I can analyze them for you. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go and mark up these charts real quick so that we can be ready for this trading week. So that's it for Cad Jpy right there. I think I left off on Aussie Usd, so we finished that. I'm gonna go to Cad Chf right here. And I'm just going to draw these zones. So it looks like there was a bunch of entries that we could have taken last week. Unfortunately, we did miss out on a lot of them because of it was a holiday week. And, it was getting kind of weird during the middle of the week. If you guys followed me last week, with regard to a choppiness around Wednesday, and then it smoothed out again on Thursday. So I'm just going to make sure these zones are proper. If they're not proper, I'm just going to redraw them. So everything here looks fine for the most part. The only difference is this zone right here. It just got a little bigger. So I'm going to go and redraw this zone right here. Other than that, it looks pretty solid for the most part. I'm going to delete this up here because it's not on the 4-hour. And I'm going to go in the higher time frames to identify the higher zone here. So nothing on the 8-hour, nothing on the daily, nothing on the weekly. Oh, actually, this is the closest one on the weekly right here. So it's actually at a resistance right now. The next zone is going to be up here. So other than that, I think that's it for the zones for Cad Chf. Going back on the 4-hour right here, looks like we do have a rejection off this point. So just looking at this here, this might reject off this point, and then if it provides a sell signal, it might come down further. So like looking at this here, we have the rejection off this point. If we get a sell signal, it's probably going to push down from here to down here, right? However, this might not happen. This is scenario number one. Scenario number two is this might just shoot right back up above here. And if it closes above the structure, it's probably going to skyrocket even higher to the next zone up there, right? So we have a couple scenarios here for Cad Chf. It's not something I really would want to mess with until we have that full confirmation there. So that's it for Cad Chf. Let me go on to the next one. And I'm gonna zoom through this, guys. Unless you guys have questions for these specific pairs, then I'll take some time on it. Otherwise, I just want to draw these zones up and I want to go back to my scalping. So if you guys just want to copy my scalps, just hang tight, guys. I just want to finish drawing these zones real quick, and then we'll get back to my scalps. So let me just see this real quick. Everything else looks pretty solid here. The only difference is this lower zone. So I'm going to go and draw these zones on the higher time frames. Nothing there on the daily. Here on the weekly right here. So we have this this big zone down here. Other than that, I think that's about it. Once price breaks and close past that structure, we need a even farther zone. So once it breaks that structure, this is actually really good because for EA, if this ends up breaking and closing past this lower structure right here, the next structure is super far down. So if price ends up breaking and closing past here, then man, we're gonna have a big move down for a sell because the next zone is not until the monthly support, which is way down here. So, you know, just looking at this, that's a huge move, right? And price hasn't broken this structure in like months because we look at the monthly support, and this is like 1,000 pip drop. You know, we have a huge, like, look at Euro odd. If you look at Euro odd here, price hasn't been this low since 2018. The last time price broke below here was in 2018. So if price breaks this structure, we're in 2021. That's like 3 years later. You know, if price breaks this structure, you know, you could probably anticipate this to drop pretty far because if it hasn't been in this area, like for example here, even this structure right here, right? If you guys followed my analysis for Euro odd, I mentioned that this hasn't dropped since 2018, even this structure. So if you caught this trade over here, and you guys followed my analysis, I think what was this, a couple of weeks ago? So a couple of weeks ago, if you followed my analysis here on the 14th, check this out. It's the same analysis I do for everything. Rejection off this structure, sell signal, breaking close past this structure right here. If you followed what I mentioned, right, what I keep teaching you guys every day, if you took this here, you would hit full TP here for like well over 100 pips, right? So it's the same thing again. If price ends up breaking, closing past this structure, what do you think is going to happen here? It's going to drop super heavy, and it's got a 1,000 pip drop. So just keep that in mind. If you guys are looking at EA, and you know, we'll probably catch that trade if it ends up closing below there. But other than that, let me move on to the next one. So I'm going to keep going down even further so that we can finish drawing up these zones, and I can get back to my my scalps. Because I mean, I still trade my intraday trades, but obviously if you guys have been following me, I've been focused more on my scalps lately because I've been making way more profit off that than taking these intraday trades. I mean, I still take these intraday trades, but I just set and forget them, right? I take the trade, I leave them alone, and I just let them run throughout the week while I'm scalping on the other end. So looking at this here, let's see these zones. Let me see if they're lined up properly. Yeah, so these zones are still the same from last week. It hasn't really done anything since then. Let's look for this lower zone below to see if we could find something over here. Nothing on the daily. All right, cool. So the next zone over here is going to be on the weekly. All right, so this is going to be the weekly support. I mean, Euro Cad is a choppy pair anyway, so I'm probably not going to trade this all week because in order for me to take this trade, price needs to close way below here. If it does close below there, we can take a short position, but until then, I mean, there's nothing really to take at this point, right? So that's it for Euro Cad. And move on to the next one. Next one is Euro CHF. Wow, look at this. Smooth move up right there. All right, so looking at Euro CHF right here, let me just make sure the zones are proper. There's another setup right here. There's another long position that's available right there. Just want to make sure that these, all right. So that's pretty solid right there. Let me just redraw these zones because they're kind of different now. So we have this zone right here. We have another zone right here. And then we need to get the higher zones over here as well. So let me go on the 8 hour. I guess this kind of extends up a little bit. So let's connect that right there. We'll go on the daily. Yeah, it's right at resistance right there. I'll get the higher one as well, weekly. So looking here on the weekly, this would be the, obviously the next resistance. All right, so let's go back on the 4 hour. Yeah, this is way too messy. It's not something that I would really want to trade until it breaks and closes past this structure. It's currently at a resistance right here. I think this is the weekly resistance or the daily. So I wouldn't take any trades until it breaks and closes past this structure right here. Once that happens, you can take a long position from that point and then ride it up to this next structure over here, which is only a 20 pip move. So it's not really worth my time to risk this when I can just look at something else that's moving a lot smoother. So that's it for Euro CHF right there. Let's move on to the next one, Euro GBP. And guys, just like I mentioned, I'm just drawing these zones up so I can prepare for the week. If you guys have any questions and you guys want me to analyze anything, just put the pair in the chat and I can analyze it for you. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through these really quick so I can mark up these zones because I want to get back to my scalps. So wow, look at US 30 over here. If you guys took that sell that I said was too risky, so the last sell was actually right here. I didn't take this trade because I said it was too risky. And obviously, it was a risky move because, I mean, it would have hit TP now, but it just hit TP. So I'm not sure if you guys took this trade here. If you guys followed me from the beginning of the live stream, I mentioned that there was a sell available right here, but I didn't take it because it just looked too risky. Obviously, it was bouncing back and forth, but it just hit full TP right now. If you guys ended up taking that trade, if you guys want to go back and look at that, you can just rewind the replay and you guys can see that I called this trade right here about an hour ago. So if you guys want to go back and look at that, you guys can. Obviously, I didn't take this trade, but I just gave you guys the idea earlier when you first started this session. It's just too risky right now for me to want to take these trades. So I'm going to wait for this. So like I mentioned earlier, I was waiting for it to drop down like this so that the pivots spread out, right? They're now spread out. So at this point, oh, wow, look at that huge drop. Damn, that's crazy. So now I'm just going to be waiting for this to come back up, reject off the structure, and I'll take another sell as it comes back down. But I'm not going to chase this. I don't recommend you guys chase this because if you guys chase this, you guys are probably going to get burnt as it bounces back and forth. But you can see here, it tested the structure perfectly, right? I drew the structure last week and it rejected directly off it. So you guys can see how important these zones are, right? This is why the first thing I do every time is draw these zones, because if you guys can identify where the rejection points are, you'll know exactly where to trade and where not to trade. So that's it for this right here. I'll come back and look at this in a bit as we look for some more scalps, because it looks like the market is starting to smoothen out for a short bias right here. So until then, I'm going to keep going down the Forex pairs to draw my zones. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I can take a look at, whatever you guys want me to take a look at for you guys. So that's it for that. Here's EG right here. I'm just going to redraw this zone because it's changed since the last week. Other than that, I think everything else is pretty much the same. The only difference here is probably this this lower area over here. So just looking at that, let me go on the higher time frame, the 8 hour. I'm just going to draw it. I'm going to delete this so that we can identify where the lower support is. So we're going to go on the weekly. Now that we're on the weekly, you can see that it's currently within the weekly support. So it might reject back from that point. Other than that, the next one is down here. So looking at EG right here, let me turn on the momentum indicator. I think obviously we have a sell bias here. So we do have a sell bias right here. What I'd be looking for is for price to break and close past this structure right here. Once price breaks and closes past this structure right here, then it would provide for a sell entry where we can ride this down to this this next weekly support for like a gain of like 90 pips right there, right? So until this closes below the structure, there's no entry. But this is basically what we'd be looking for, for the next entry there. So that's it for EG. Shawn said AUD/JPY. So Shawn, I just looked at AUD/JPY earlier. I'm just going to reiterate the analysis that I did prior for Harris, I believe. So looking at this here, I mentioned that, you know, this is why I mentioned not to enter this trade, Harris. Hopefully you can enter this buy here, but because, you know, obviously price is going to have to stabilize as everything reopens for the weekend. So just looking at this here, Shawn, we do have a bullish bias here. So let me just delete all this off the chart. We have a bullish bias here. Reason for that is because the most recent signal was this buy signal right here, right? So we have the rejection off this point. We have the buy signal right here. It formed a break and retest, right? Because price broke structure, came down for a retest, and then it shot all the way up. So if you took this trade right here, obviously, you know, you would have hit full TP, because this would have been about about a 70 pip move, I guess, or maybe even more than that. But I'm just going to be tight with my TP stop loss off this. So if you took this trade right here, obviously it broke up, retested a little bit, then it shot all the way up. So looking at this here again, it's pretty much the same pattern again, right? So let me just leave this on the chart again right here. So it's the same thing. Price broke and closed past the structure. It's now retesting. So it's the same thing, right? So price broke and closed past the structure. It shot up. It's coming down for this retest, and it's probably going to bounce right back up right here. We also looked at the Aussie Yen Index. So we looked over here. The Aussie Index is just flat right now. It's not moving at all. But looking at the yen, let's see, JXY. This right here, looking at this, this is where it gets a little tricky because the yen has crossed above the structure right here, right? It's crossed above the structure. So it can do one of two things. It can either continue up higher or it can drop from this point. If it ends up continuing up higher, then we could probably see this drop lower, right? Because obviously if the yen is stronger than the Aussie dollar, then it's going to go down. If the Aussie dollar is stronger than the yen, it's going to go up. So looking at this here, the Aussie dollar is just flat right now. The yen is actually moving. That's what's causing this volatility to go back and forth. So if this drops, then we can see this continue up. However, if this shoots up from this point, then we can see this continue to drop even lower, right? So just looking at this pair right now, I would just wait for it to confirm. So this is what I would be looking for. I'd be looking for price to either provide a sell signal. So if it provides a sell signal right here, and then it closes below the structure, so we get a sell signal, it closes below the structure, then I would take a short, right? Because then the bias would move from a bullish bias to a sell bias if we have that sell signal. Vice versa, if we don't get that sell signal there and we have price close below here, if this happens and it swings back up from this point and closes above here with no sell signal, it's still a buy signal, then I would take a long position from there, right? So it goes both ways. You just have to wait for that confirmation. You know, don't jump in too early, because it can go either way at this point. You know, market's barely opening, everything is still stabilizing. It's going to bounce back and forth until, you know, direction's been set for the week. But I think at this point right now, I wouldn't really take this trade. I would just wait for that confirmation for it's either, you know, swing back above here, or if it's closed below here with a sell signal for you to take that sell. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all I see for AUD/JPY at this point. Let me go ahead and take a look at USD/JPY for Ollie. So let's go to USD/JPY down here. Looks like kind of the same analysis. So let me just delete everything off this chart. I'm going to analyze this from scratch for you guys. Zoom out from this point, turn on the K2SR indicator. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my zones from down here, my zone from right here, zone from this point. And you guys can see that I use the same exact analysis for everything, right? This is and this is how I trade every single day. So if you guys want to learn these techniques, I mean, it's very simple. You guys can see that I do the same thing over and over again, and it's pretty accurate. So, you know, my advice to you guys, if you guys are looking and you guys are, you know, still confused with how to analyze things, what I always recommend is to keep it simple, right? A lot of people want to overcomplicate trading, but you guys can see here that I use the same analysis for everything. I use it for Forex. I use it for commodities. I use it for cryptos. I use it for everything, and it works perfectly fine. So if you guys want a one-stop shop for like whatever you like to trade, I mean, you guys have found it. But anyways, going back to USD/JPY right here, we have these lower zones. Next up, we have to look at these higher zones. I'm gonna go on the higher time frame because we have no zones on these on these specific time frames right here. So I'm here on the daily. I'm gonna go ahead and draw this zone right here. I'm gonna draw this zone up here, and then this zone up here as well. And yeah, I think that's about it. Let me go on the 4 hour again. So just looking at this here, I mean, it's currently within the daily resistance, right? Or support, I guess, because price, or no, resistance, because price came from below here. So at this point, it's currently within the daily resistance. You can see right here, it's attempting to break above it, but it failed to do so. So in order for us to take a buy entry, I'm sure we have a bullish bias here. Let me turn on the momentum indicator. Yeah, exactly like I mentioned, we have a bullish bias right here. We have the rejection off this point. We have the buy signal right here. The next thing that we're looking for is for price to break and close past this structure right here. Once price breaks and closes past this structure right here, then we can take a long position from this point and then ride it up to this point for like about 30 pips or so, right? Because when that happens, price will, shoot up from this point. It'll either reject off this point or it'll continue higher. So if that happens, then, obviously we do the same thing, breaks and close past the structure, we take another buy position. But until then, I mean, we're waiting for this confirmation right here, Ollie. So basically, we have a bullish bias, but we need it to break and close past this structure. If that fails to do so, and it ends up closing below here, then we might be able to take a sell instead. But until that, has confirmed, we're not really going to be looking at this for any sort of entry, because it's just, I mean, it's stuck within this daily resistance or daily zone, I'd say, because it was a support here, it broke below, then it swung back up. Now it's a resistance, right? So I would wait for it to, break above here, or wait for it to close below here with the sell signal until you take that trade. But yeah, other than that, I think that's about it for UJ right now. So let's see. Smoke said, can you tell me the sweet spot for US 30 10-minute chart? So on the 10-minute, so let me check this out real quick. So let me just pull it over here, 30-minute. So looking at the 30-minute here, I'm not sure what the sweet spot would be for US 30 smokes, but let me go ahead and I'm just gonna look for like a most recent entry so I can show you, where the sweet spot was for that specific one. Because it's gonna vary, because sometimes, like for example right here, like if we were to enter some long position right here, like say we try to enter this long, right? I usually put the stop loss at the zone. I mean, like at the pivots right here. So it'd be about 500 pips to maybe 1,000, depending on how far you're going for that move. Because like, for example, if your stop loss was right here at 50 pips or 500 pips, you would hit TP right there, right? And it's the same situation down here. If you go down to 1,000 pips, it still would hit TP as well. So I personally don't trade US 30 on the 10-minute, so I'm not sure what the sweet spot would be. But let me just look up what the most recent one would have been, and then you can base it off of that. I mean, it's always going to be ever changing, those smokes. So like there's never going to be like one set one unless you go far back in data. Like for me, I know the sweet spot for the 10-minute because I back tested that like 10 years. So I knew like what was always hitting and what wasn't. But for the 30-minute, I don't necessarily trade this at all because it's just too far of a move for me to really want to take these trades. So that's why I don't take them. But let me just see if I can find one here for you. So looking at this right here, I mean, there's a couple entries. Looks like this first entry would have been this red one right here. So this right here, if you were to take this trade right here, looks like the sweet spot would be about 500 pips. But I know this isn't going to be the normal sweet spot for this. So this is like one sweet spot for this one. This would be 500 pips. We'll go back to another entry over here. Let's see if I can find one like this right here, this red one. We have the rejection off the pivot and the structure. So if we were to take this trade right here, short or long position, sweet spot for this would be about 500 pips too. But I'm pretty sure this isn't the normal sweet spot because the 30-minute it moves way faster than the 10-minute, and the sweet spot for the 10-minute is 500 pips. So looking at this right here, let me see, we have another entry right here, rejection off this point. I'm just going back and I'm looking at previous entries to see where the sweet spots were for these entries right here, so I can see if they match up. So for example, right here, the sweet spot would probably be 500 pips to like 700 pips, right? So either way, if your TP was 500 pips, it would hit TP. If your TP was 700 pips, it hit TP as well, with little to literally no drawdown. Let me check for another one over here real quick. I'm looking for like a wider move here so we can see if it differs that much. So we have a entry right there. Looks like, yeah, 500 be the sweet spot for this one as well. So it looks like it's around 500 to 1,000 smokes. I mean, it really depends on, how much risk you're looking to take. Let me just go over here real quick. I'll see if there's another entry at this point. I'm trying to find one that's like a lot wider, because it's kind of hard to really figure this out if it's just too close. So let me just go back over here. So basically the way that I would do it is I would just measure this from this point. So let's see. So we have like an entry right here. Sweet spot would be about 1,000. So it looks like it's somewhere between 500 and 1,000 pips, smokes. It just it's really, it would depend on the entry that you're taking. Like for example, if you're taking an entry right here, you would enter like a long position right there, and then you just put your stop loss either at the middle of these pivots or below it. So below it's like way too far, right? It's nearly 2,000 pips. That's like too big of a move. So I'd probably put it around here for about 1,000. You just got to figure out how the market's moving at the specific time. Because like, for example, right here, market is moving super fast, right? So you can take these big moves. You compare it to how price is moving currently right now. It just isn't moving. I mean, it's moving big moves, but it's not really moving as big as everything else. See, someone's drawing on the chart real quick. Let me turn off the drawing for you guys. Disable annotation. I'm not sure who was drawing that. Let me delete that. All right, clear all drawings. There we go. Might have just been an accident. It's fine. See, Smoke said in the C right now. I think you might have said sell, right, Smokes? So if you're in a sell right now, oh, sorry guys, I just drew all these. Take those off. Sure. Delete that. All right, so if you're in a sell right now, Smokes, your sweet spot for this would be about 500. That's your sweet spot at the specific entry right here. It's gonna vary from entry to entry, because if you're trading on the 30-minute, you're not gonna get the same sweet spot every single time, right? Because you can see right here, price will move from like 2,000 pips to moving like about less than 1,000 pips. So it just really depends on where you're trading. You just got to look at like you can see how I marked everything up, right, Smokes? When you take the entry, just put your stop loss either in the middle of the pivots or above it, and then you can catch that sweet spot there. I probably wouldn't go anything less than 500 pips, and I probably wouldn't go anything higher than 1,000 pips. But yeah, just looking at this right here, if you took this trade and you put your stop loss above the pivots right here, which be minimum 500, you would have hit TP right there, and then we just bounce from entry to entry. Yeah, no problem, Smokes. If we find another entry and I see it differ, or if you have another entry that you took for US 30, just let me know, and then I'll find out what the sweet spot is for that. But it looks like it's between 500 and 1,000. So let's see. Merciful says, sent you my profits on Telegram, Shawn. Merciful, let's check you out real quick. Let's see. Damn, nice work, Merciful. Bro, you just opened this account too, right? This is your new FTMO. Yeah, you literally just opened this account. So for the day, you're up 1,163. Congrats, bro. That's just off one account too. So if you had 200K accounts, that would just add up pretty nice. So nice work, Merciful, off that. It's a great way to kick off the week. You guys can see here that, everyone is kicking off the week pretty nice. Even Billy over here. Check out Billy. Billy said, nice, take a scalp off the top first. So he's been scalping as well. So if you guys want access to the strategy and the indicators, what's available to you, like check out Billy right here. He just sent me his profits at 617 about an hour ago. He took some scalps for GJ right here. He made 211, another scalp for GJ 193, and then the US 30 that I called earlier for 273. So he's up pretty nice in profit. Right now, so he's got about 2, 3, 4, 5. He's up about $600 for the day for Billy. And these aren't even my profits. These are the K² profits, right? So if you guys want access to the indicators, you guys can see here that everyone in K² is killing it. It's not just me. It's literally everybody. And I save everyone's profits here. So if you ever want to go back and see what everyone's profits are, You know, Billy right here locked in that much. Isai over here locked in, or Merciful locked in about 1,163. Billy again earlier, that US 30. And Isai again earlier this morning. He kicked off this the trading week, and he took his own trade right there for sell, locked in about 436. And he's just been killing it, guys. Everyone here in K2 is killing it. So if you guys want to join and have access to everything and just, you know, take your own trades, you guys are more than welcome. Just go on the website and sign up. So that's pretty much it for that right there. Other than that, I think that's about it for now. I looked at AUD/JPY, looked at USD/JPY. Let's see. Salim said for DAX 30, the sweet spot is 200 pips, correct? And to find my TP stop loss, I would put 2,000 ticks. You'd put, here, let me check it out, Salim, real quick. So let me go back to DAX 30. I'm just gonna look up the entries that were available just now. So looking at DAX 30 right here. So I think for my scalps, guys, I'm gonna be focusing more so on the DAX than US 30, since those are, they kind of move similar. So just looking at this right here, I'm gonna turn on the zones for the DAX. I'm gonna see what Salim took over here. I'm pretty sure it's around there. It's around 200 and 250, I believe, for the DAX. I just started trading DAX more recently. I may have traded in the past, but I started scalping it a lot more recently. So just looking at this here, let me just turn this off. So it looks like the most recent entry was right here off this sell. So if you were to take this trade right here, Celine, let me see. I'm pretty sure this is probably the one that you took, right? So if you took that trade right there, yeah, sweet spot looks like about 200. So you're pretty spot on that. So for your ticks, I would just put 200 right there, Celine, and it looks like you would have hit full TP off that trade right there. So nice work off that. It looks like it's about 200. Let me see if there's another entry over here that, you know, probably could have set up. Let's see, there's one over, I mean, there's one right here, but it's kind of hard to set that up right here. So let me just mark this up over here. Actually, it's pretty solid. It looks like about 200 is a sweet spot for the DAX. It could be between, I guess it could be between 1,000, 100 and 200. In between those two areas right here, because if your TP stop loss was 100, I mean, it still would have been pretty solid if you wanted a tighter TP stop loss. But if you were to go for like that fuller move, looks like 200 would have been the pretty good sweet spot for you right there. Or I mean, you could even go even farther, but that looks pretty solid, 200 pips for your sweet spot in the DAX 30. So I'm still playing around with DAX. I'm trying to figure out, what the sweet spot is, but it looks like 200 is pretty solid. Like even right here, I'm trying to look for some like tricky trades so that we can see, what the sweet spot would be. So like, for example, this red candle right here, right? If we took a buy position right here, because we had the rejection off the pivot and the structure, looks like if you're yeah, actually you're pretty solid with 200, Salim, because if your TP stop loss was 100, looks like you would have gone stopped out. It's way too tight. But if you got it at 200, it looks like you would have hit TP off that right there, pretty solid. Like you would have hit TP before it ended up coming back down. So you're pretty spot on with that, Salim. If I find something different, I'll let you know. But I think right now 200 is pretty solid for your TP stop loss for the DAX 30. All right. So other than that, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go down the Forex pairs again and try to wrap up these zones before we move forward with the trading week. So we got Euro JPY over here. I'm going to delete everything off the chart. Or actually, let me just, I'm going to see if these are actually, the zones are the same, because there's no point in me redrawing them if they are. Because in reality, guys, I'm not really too focused on these zones. I'm more focused on just getting everything set up so I can start looking for trades off the 4 hour. But you guys know that my main focus is scalping now, because like right now, guys, we're in a scalping market. The market isn't really moving too smoothly for the bigger moves. That's why we're really emphasizing that you guys use the exit strategy. And I'm more focused on scalping because I can make way more just scalping, like 3 or 4 entries instead of just going for that one big one. And then it end up like reversing on you when you least expect it. So that's it for these zones on the 4 hour. I'm going to 8 hour, see if I see anything up here. Nothing. Daily, nothing. I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Just mark that up on the weekly. All right, other than that, it looks pretty solid. So yeah, just looking at your JPY right here, I think we have bullish bias, right? Yeah, bullish bias. So same pattern right here, you know, rejection off this point, breaking close past structure, buy signal. Obviously, this would have been the entry right there. You would have been in profit and currently active right now. So that's it for Euro JPY. Let me take a look at the next one. So we got a couple pairs here. We only have a couple left. We have about Euro NZD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 15 pairs. So I'm just going to zoom through these real quick, guys. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to focus on knocking these out real quick so that we can move on with our scalps for the day over here. All right, so everything looks pretty solid here. I'm going to delete that. The rest of these zones look all right. Let me just move this down a little bit. There we go. That one's good right there too. That lower one's good. So next up, we need the lower zone from this point. See, nothing on the 8 hour. Actually, let me go back to the 8 hour real quick. I'm just gonna push this zone out a little wider because it looks like it just engulfs that 4 hour zone. So nothing on the daily, weekly. All right, this weekly is messy. It's yeah, it's way too messy. All right, so let me just fix this down here. Go back on this 4 hour. So yeah, looking at this from here, let me just zoom out from this point. Yeah, it looks like this is still moving a full TP right there. We would probably wait for this to break and close past the structure if you want to re-enter this. I wouldn't enter this just yet if you guys aren't in the position. I'd wait for it to close below here, and then you can take another short position from that point down there for about 65 pips. But until then, you know, obviously there's no entries that are available at this point. So that's it for Euro NZD. Move on to the next one, Euro USD. Delete everything off the chart. I'm just going to redraw this because this one looks way too messy for me to really analyze off that. So zoom out from here. All right, looks solid. Hey, what's up, Billy? How's it going, bro? I just showed them your profits, dude. You killed it. Let's see, Billy. Oh, you sent me another one. Yeah, so Billy, he showed me his first profits here. He got 223, and then Billy sent me his profits just now, about an hour ago. He's up pretty nice, about 600 bucks. So nice work off that, Billy. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the charts over here real quick. And let me just redraw these zones for you guys. Man, really been on point with those trades, dude. I'm kind of glad I didn't take that Sunday Funday entry, right? Because it kind of dropped pretty heavy for US 30. So let me just finish drawing these zones here. Man, these zones are super messy. Let me see. So this is actually one big zone. Let me just redraw this again, guys. I'll go from the top bottom because the bottom zones are kind of messy. Generally, if these zones overlap, I just create one big zone. So we don't have like way too many zones to look at. Because if you have too many zones, you're gonna start getting like that what's it called, analysis paralysis, where you just see too many things on the chart and you get confused and you just get too scared to enter these trades. So let me close this off right here. Yeah, looking at your USD right now, it's currently within these two zones. It looks like it's just ranging back and forth. I mean, I'd probably have to wait for this. Let me see. We probably have a bullish bias right here. That's what I'm assuming. There we go. We do have that bullish bias, like I just mentioned. Have the rejection off this point. We have the buy signal right there. I'd probably have to wait for this to shoot above here to take this trade. Obviously, it was a break and retest. Price broke structure, came back for the retest. And then I probably anticipate this to push up here. And then this is probably where I would take that long entry right there. So that's it for your USD. Move on to the next one. See, Billy, yeah, unfortunately, they retraced to break even. I lost one scalp, no big deal. I was smart enough to put the 3 to break even at least. Nice, nice. Yeah, so nice work off that, Billy. You know, you guys have to be active with your trades, especially during this month, because this month it's just been kind of choppy. So it's kind of hard for you guys to really catch those big moves without really monitoring your trades. Because I've seen a lot of people, they don't want to monitor their trades and they end up hitting stop loss. And I'm like, dude, if you use the exit strategy like we always advise, you would have been perfectly fine. So anyways, back to GA over here. It's currently within these zones, so nothing there. Let me go over here to GCAD. And I'm just going to try to knock all these out real quick, guys, because I'm getting tired of looking at these Forex pairs. You guys know Forex has gone kind of boring ever since I released the new scalp strategy for you guys, right? So you guys have been killing it with the scalp strategy. I know most of you guys here don't even care about these Forex pairs anymore. What does John say? John's like, what's Forex? Because we usually just scalp indices now, guys, and we've been killing it. So, you might as well just focus on what's exciting right now versus, getting too caught up on these other pairs that like nobody really wants to trade. I mean, I still trade them. Don't get me wrong. I still trade these because I still make profit off Forex. It's just they're too slow. And, everyone wants those exciting pairs, which is fine with me because US 30 is my favorite thing to trade anyways. So I prefer to just trade that. But, I still make profit off Forex. It just isn't. I mean, I'm going to trade whatever I make profit off. If I make profit off Forex, I'm going to keep trading Forex. And I'm going to trade US 30 as well. There's really no reason for you to limit yourself. All right, so looking at GCAD over here. Yeah, no, Billy said it's all about US 30. Yeah, I agree, bro. I make most of my profits off US 30. I still make profits off Forex, but it's just, I mean, they're slow moving profits. It's like back and forth. Kind of sucks because you'll like have a heavy week, which will be like a lot of wins, and then another week will just be super slow. And it's just, it's back and forth. All right, so going back to GBP CHF over here. So guys, I'm not even going to talk that much. I'm just going to come in because I literally just want to get these zones up for the week so I can look for Forex trades out the 4 hour. But I want to go back to my scalps. So I just want to mark these up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and then I'll take a look for you. Otherwise I'm just going to be marking up these zones on my own time right here just to get it out of the way. Because you guys have seen when I draw my zones for the week, I usually draw them on Wednesday. I mean, on Sunday, and then they're pretty much good until Wednesday. So I don't have to go and redraw these for like another 3 days or so. So I just want to knock these out so I can get back to my scalps. Come on, Cody, get off me, bro. My dog's right here. He's trying to promise go on his walk. I don't know if you guys can see him on the camera. It's cool. All right. So let me get these higher zones over here real quick. Let's see. On the 8 hour, daily, weekly. All right, cool. So we have a zone right here off the weekly. So there's a weekly support, weekly resistance up here. Looks like it broke above that zone. So it looks like it's probably going to continue pushing up from this point. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, obviously we have a bullish bias right here. If I turn on the momentum indicator, we'll see that we have a bullish bias, right? So the bullish bias started way down here. So we have the rejection off this structure. We have the buy signal right here. It pushed up to this next structure and it just keeps repeating itself, right? It's the same analysis I've done for everything else. We have that right there. We have another one right here where price breaks and close past structure. What happens from that point? Same thing, pushes up to the next structure, breaking close past structure right here. What happens from that point? Same thing again, right? This position is still technically active right now. It's pushing up to full TP, but the next resistance is not till like way up here. So it's got a long way to go this week. So we're probably gonna have some buys for GBP CHF this week. But like I mentioned, we're gonna be holding off on, obviously entering these trades until the market starts to smoothen out for the new week. So that's it for GBP CHF. Move over to GJ right quick. This is what I actually looked at this earlier already. So there's no, I'm just gonna this is such a messy thing where I'm gonna delete everything off the chart and I'm just gonna redraw my zones because it's just way too messy. So let me take everything off. Here's the naked chart right here. First thing I do is turn on the K2SR indicator so I can draw my zones. I just wanted to clean it up for you guys so you guys can see, my whole thought process in analyzing this because it's very simple and I feel like everyone should keep trading simple, right? A lot of people want to overcomplicate it. They want to have like a million indicators on the chart. Like, guys, I literally use the K2SR. This is the first thing I do. Once I draw my zones, I turn it off and I just look at momentum. That's it. And then I ride the momentum in whatever direction it's going. Like, you guys don't have to have like 20 indicators on your chart. telling you all these different things when they all tell you the same thing anyways. But okay, so here's GJ as 4-hour zones. We need to find the higher zones. So there's 8-hour, the daily, the weekly. Man, look at this messy chart. Super messy. All right, so it's currently within the weekly resistance right here. But I mean, obviously there's a lot of different zones within it. So I'm just gonna go and draw my little horizontal lines. We got a zone right there, zone right there, and a zone right there. So going back on the 4-hour over here, price is currently within a small zone right now, right? So you guys can see this is I only had one indicator in the chart, right? You guys don't have to have like 100 indicators. I have one indicator to draw my zones. Once I have my zones drawn up, I turn on my momentum indicator. So I literally only use like 2 or 3 indicators to confirm things, and I have a pretty clean chart here. So just looking at this point here, we have a bullish bias because the most recent signal was a buy right here. So we have a rejection off this point. We have a breaking close past structure right there. What does it do? Same thing that I've always mentioned, right? Pushes up to the next structure right here. As soon as that happens, we're waiting for price to break and close past this structure right here for us to take another buy. So once that happens, we can take another long position right here and then just ride this to the next structure right here for like 60 pips, right? It's a nice little profit right there off GJ. And a lot of you guys like to trade GJ. So that's all you got to wait for. You got to wait for price to break and close past the structure. Once that happens, you can take a long position, and then it breaks and closes past that structure again. You take another long position there, and there you go with those wins, because you're just trading within this weekly resistance, right? It has to break outside the zone for you to keep pushing. But you know, once you take this trade right here, you can take that win right there. Obviously, if you took all these trades here, let's check this out. You take this trade right here, full TP right there, right? 70 pips. So it's the same pattern. You take that right there. You wait for it to break above here, another 60 pips. You wait for it to break above here again, another 60 pips, right? So like I try to make it as simple as possible for you guys, because you know there's a lot of people that always ask for like all these different analysis using like Fibonacci, using like they're like basically using all these tools that you don't really need. You know, literally for all these right here, that's pretty much all I use. I use the K2SR indicator to determine the zones. And then I use the momentum indicator to determine which direction to trade in. It's really not that difficult, because if you think about it, guys, price can only go in 2 directions, right? It goes up or it goes down. You don't have to have like a freaking RSI, a stochastic, a MACD, all that stuff to like show you things. When you can just look at the chart, like literally look, if I take this off the chart and you just look at it, look at the patterns, guys. It just repeats itself. It breaks structure, rejects off the structure, comes back down, rejects off, and you can just take trades in both directions, right? Price can only go up or it can go down. You know, you take a sell and it goes up, you lose, you know, so be it. You take the next trade for another buy, it goes up, and then you win. So it's really not that difficult, guys. You don't have to go too deep into your analysis, because if you do that, you're probably going to miss out on a lot of good trades, because there's just you know, too many things that you're looking at. So that's it for GJ right there. I'm just waiting for it to break past the structure so I can take that buy. Until then, you know, I'm going to hold off. We're just waiting for that same confirmation we've been looking for pretty much everything else. So let's see. The next question was from Jay. Ayo girl, it's Jay. Ayo girl, Jay. So she wants Aussie Usd. I analyzed that earlier, so I'll just reiterate the analysis again. So we'll go back to Aussie Usd right here. So what I was mentioning about this right here is that we had this this trade that was available from last week, Jay. So basically from this point, we're, you know, I was anticipating this right here. So I marked this up already. I mentioned that this was probably going to retrace down a little bit, but it still has a bullish bias, because if I turn on the momentum indicator over here, it's still a buy signal, right? Until we get a sell signal, we're only looking for buys here. So right here, we have price come up, hit full TP off this. It's retracing down a little bit. As soon as it, you know, establishes another support or another zone down here, which it hasn't yet, once that happens, it'll probably shoot right back up. So we do have a bullish bias for Aussie USD, but right now, because the market just opened, it's, you know, obviously it's going to go back and forth. So if you want to look at a deeper analysis for that, we'll pull up the indexes for both the Aussie dollar and the dollar index right here. So this is what I was mentioning before, guys. So like right here, the Aussie index is just flat right now. It's not really moving. And the dollar index right here is actually pushing up. So this is where it gets a little tricky, because if this ends up going down and this ends up going up, then the Aussie USD will continue to drop further, right? Because when price is going up, that means that the first currency is stronger than the second currency. When price is going down, that means that the second currency is stronger than the first currency. So looking at this here, if the dollar index tries to push up and it breaks above these pivots and continues pushing, then the dollar is going to be stronger, right? If that's the case, it'll probably push down even further, retest this structure, because this could be a break and retest, right? Price broke structure right here. It never came down and retest this structure. So it might come up, then come back down, retest the structure before it shoots back up from this point. But we really don't know what's going to happen from this point until there's some sort of confirmation. Because technically this full move hasn't filled yet. It hasn't completed. But there's a lot of smaller moves that can happen within this full move, right? Because this is going to be the weekly resistance. So if this is the weekly resistance, it's going to reach this point at some point. It might not happen this week. It might not happen next week, but eventually it's going to push up to this point until, market starts to shift in the opposite direction. But just looking at the indexes over here, I mean, they're both kind of flat. Looking at the dollar index here, it's not really moving very much. It's kind of just going sideways. It was a big move right here. Wick rejection off this point. You can see the last time it had this wick rejection, right? Wick rejection off this point, came back down, came back up, wick rejection. It might come right back down from that point again. If this happens and it comes back down and this continues to push up, then you can expect the odd USD to continue pushing up to, finish up this full move right here. But until then, I probably wouldn't take this trade. I would just hold off for a bit and then wait for that confirmation before you take this trade. Because this move over here already hit full TP. But overall, I think it's going to push up to this structure up here. So just keep that in mind, Jay. I would just give it some time. Don't enter this trade just yet. Wait to see what happens, like how the market reacts once the other markets open. Because right now it's currently just the Aussie Japanese market for Asia. London opens in about 5 hours. So once London opens, it'll probably push price up or push price down. And then you can continue to follow it in that direction. If it pushes down, you can take a sell. If it pushes up, you can take a buy. But until then, I'll just hold off. I'd probably hold off until tomorrow for US market to reopen. So that's it for odd USD. Mercedes said US 30 sell entry. Let me pull that up real quick. So let me go back to US 30 real quick. So I don't see anything here yet, Mercedes. Like we would need the rejection off the pivot in the structure. Price is way down here. So I don't really see a sell entry for this. We would need the rejection off the pivot and the structure right here in order for us to take this trade. So yeah, nothing for that right now. But yeah, Jay, going back to odd USD, I would hold off on this. I still have a bullish bias because we have a buy signal here. But the last thing you want to do is enter a long position right here. And then what happens? It pushes down and tests its structure and you're like in some heavy drawdown, right? That's like worst feeling. It's a worst feeling when you enter a trade and then it goes straight into drawdown. So I would just hold off a little bit and then wait for it to swing back up. And then you can hop into that buy. Because obviously I think it's going to push up to this next structure like way up here. But it's just going to take some time. Market's going to be slow right now for a bit. All right, anyways, so that's it with that. Let me go back to the other Forex pair I was analyzing earlier. I forgot which one I left off on. I know I looked at GA, I know I looked at GCAD, GJ. All right, GN. So this is the last one I was looking at. I just want to make sure the zones are on proper before we continue on with this analysis. So let's see, nothing there. These zones over here connect, so these are good. Okay, so the next thing we need is the higher zones. So this is the zones on the 4 hour. Let's go on the 8 hour. Nothing there. Let's go on the daily. All right, so the next zone is actually super high up here. This is the next daily resistance. So let me go back on the 4 hour over here. I think we might have a sell bias right now because this dropped pretty heavy. So I'm assuming we had a sell signal that appeared not too long ago. So yeah, exactly. The sell signal just appeared right there. So looking at this point right here, there's two different things that can play out for GN. Price will either close below here and then we can take a short position from there, or price can reject off this point, provide a buy signal, and then close above here, then we would take that buy, right? So like there's two different scenarios that can play out here, but we would need that confirmation. We either need price to break below here with that sell signal, or we need price to reject off this point with a buy signal so we can take a long position from here. So two different scenarios that can play out here, but I'm going to hold off on looking at this until we have that confirmation. The next 4 hour candle closes in about 2 hours and 30 minutes. We have some time until we would need to look for the next entry. So my dog is holding on to me right now. All right, Cody, go chill. All right, so that's it for GN. Let me move on to the next one over here. GU, I analyzed that already, so we don't need that anymore. NZD CAD. Biko said, how do you get the 10-minute time frame on TradingView? So Biko, there's a couple of ways to get it. So for example, here, I'm just going to go on the 4 hours so I can show you how I change it. So there's one way to do it. One way to do it is to just type 10 on your keyboard. So just click on the chart, type in 10, and you'll see there it says change interval of 10 minutes. You hit enter, and there you go to the 10-minute chart, right? Another way to do it is to click this drop down right here. And then if you don't have the 10-minute on here, just go to this bottom right here, type in 10, and then click add, and then it'll add it to your list right here. So those are the two ways to get the 10-minute time frame on TradingView. So that's pretty much it for that. Let me go back to NZD CAD real quick. All right, so NZD CAD over here. Let me see if everything else over here. Hey, Kasim, how's it going, bro? I haven't seen you in a while. Must have been busy, right? Because you're, I think you were busy with your other stores, right? Because everything's starting to open up over there for your tourist business. Let me check this real quick. All right. All right, so this zone's gone right here. Let me redraw these lower ones over here. So we got these upper zones are still good. I'm gonna delete this one off there. And then we will draw this right there as well. All right, so those are the zones there for the 4 hour. I mean, it's pretty solid. I mean, they're messy zones, so they're not even, I mean, I probably wouldn't even want to trade within this area. I think we have a bullish bias right here. So let me, I think what I should look for is a higher zone just in case price ends up breaking above it. So let's go on the 8 hour right here. We have this zone right here. And then let me go on the daily. All right, so other than that, I think that's about it for now. So looking at NZD CAD, turn this off. I'm sure we have a bullish bias because it looks pretty bullish right here. So if I turn on the momentum indicator, we probably have a buy signal, right? And that's exactly what we have. The buy signal appeared from down here. We have a rejection off this point. Buy signal right here. Oh yeah, definitely Kasim. Yeah, bro, look forward to having you back. I know I haven't talked to you in a while. So I was assuming you're pretty busy with your business out there with tourism starting to pick back up, right? But yeah, anyway, so looking at NZD CAD over here, this is if you took this entry, it would have been obviously a full TP, same pattern. What we're looking for here again is for price to break above here to close, and then from that point, another long position right there. So that's pretty much all that I'm looking for here for NZD CAD, but there's no entry available. So we'll move on to the next one, NZD CHF. I'm gonna turn this off real quick. I'm just gonna make sure the zones are the same. If the zones are the same, like I mentioned, there's no reason for us to go in and redraw them, right? Because it takes a long time for us to go and redraw. Well, not really, but I'm just lazy. So I'd rather just adjust them as they need to be adjusted. Because on the 4 hour, the zones don't change that often. They change by the week. And that's why we do this on Sunday, because it's a brand new week. So anyways, that's it for NZD CHF on the 4 hour. I'm gonna go on the 8 hour to get these other zones. I'm just gonna stretch this out a little bit right there. Let's go on the daily, nothing there. Weekly, all right, cool. So we have, I mean, price is currently within it just broke, or it's about to break this weekly resistance. And the next zone is like way up here. So going back to NZD CHF over here, looks like price broke the structure right there, and then might be pushing up even higher. I'm sure if we turn on the momentum indicator, it'll be bullish. There we go. So it is bullish right there. We have the rejection from this point, buy signal, breaking close past structure, push up. And then again, right here, another entry that's possibly available right here, which I mean, it's got a long way to go. So I'll go back and take a look at that a little later. Other than that, I think that's it for NZD CHF. Let's move on to the next one, NZD JPY. And let me go ahead and make sure that these zones are pretty proper. So let me just turn on the momentum, the SR indicator. Just make sure these zones are in the same places. Let me delete this. Delete this. Oh, actually, I already looked at NZD JPY earlier, so I don't have to go and reanalyze that. if you guys want to watch that, you guys can just rewind it to the beginning. It's one of the first questions that was asked during this session. So let me see, everything here is kind of decent. Let me just take this off right here. Can draw this zone right here. And then other than that, so we have an upper zone over here. Let's finish this. And then this one right here as well. All right, cool. So we're gonna go and check the higher zones right here on the 8 hour. Looks like it's currently within the 8 hour resistance. So on top of that, we want to see if there's anything higher in case it decides to, continue pushing up higher and higher, which, is a possibility. All right, so looking at this right here, going back to the 4 hour, looks like a price broke this structure and then it just retraced back down, right? So it's like a break and retest. Price broke structure, it's retesting the structure, and then we'll probably catch this as it swings back up to catch it when it breaks structure a second time. So I have these zones right here drawn up already. But here's the thing, if price ends up breaking above here, the next resistance is pretty far up. It's like way up there. So we'll see how this plays out. Otherwise, there's just nothing to look at for NZD USD right now. Let's move on to the next one, USD CAD. Looking at this right here, let me just make sure the zones are in the same place. Yeah, so the difference is this zone is gone. Looks like this zone right here actually extended a bit, and this zone as well. So we have these zones set up right here. I'm going to go in the higher time frame to get the lower zone in case price, continues to push lower. Obviously, the upper zones are kind of irrelevant right now because price is so far down. But wow, there's no zones here on the weekly. Let's go on the monthly. Okay, so the next zone it's actually kind of close. So the next zone is right there. Let's go on this 4 hour. Yeah, looking at this right here, this is USD CAD. If price breaks below the structure, it could be a decent move for like 30 pips. But other than that, not really much to look at from there. So I have that marked up. Finally, the last pair. I already looked at UJ, so I'm not going to reanalyze that. But here we are with USD CHF. Oh, check this out. So I see how I drew this last week, guys. So I drew this last week on the 17th. You can see it played out exactly like I mentioned, right? So I drew this on this, I think price was like somewhere over here, like around this area, but price ended up coming down and then it rejected off here exactly how I drew it. So you guys can see how important these zones are, right? If you guys have these zones, you guys basically have a blueprint of where price is going to be moving from, because price bounces from zone to zone. See, price breaks the structure here, next zone bounces off, comes back down here, tests this zone, and then it just swings back and forth. So if you guys have these K2SR zones, you guys have a huge edge in the market because a lot of people don't have these zones. Like a lot of people that want to draw their own support and resistances, they usually draw them in the wrong places. Yeah, it's a common issue with a lot of traders where they don't know where to draw their zones. But if you guys have my K2SR indicator, it makes all the difference for you here. So it takes out all the guesswork. Anyways, looking at USD CHF right here, I'm going to turn off the K2SR indicator so we can look a little bit closer. So looking at this here, I'm assuming we have a bullish bias because it looks like price is pushing up pretty nicely right here, right? So if I turn on the momentum indicator, that's exactly what we have right here, right? So I want price to break and close past this structure. Once this happens, where it breaks and closes past this structure, we can take a long position here to this next structure for like a gain of about 40 pips, right? So that's all we're going to be looking for here. But until then, there's just no entry available at this point. So that's it for USD CHF, and that's it for the Forex pairs. So next up, I'm going to take a look at the indices because now I'm finally done drawing my zones here. The next Forex pairs are going to come out at 10 p.m. my time. So that's about 2 hours and 23 minutes. Until then, I'm going to be looking for some scalps. And if we see anything, we're going to take them. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to be looking for some scalps here. If I don't see any scalps coming up anytime soon, I'll probably be logging off for the night. I'll still be available on the Telegram. But, like I mentioned, the market's moving too slow right now. So there just really isn't very many entries that are safe. Like if we do take entries today, they're going to be risky entries. It's the same with the other Forex, the other scalps I took today. So if you guys are following me in the premium, I mentioned that I took this test trade over here where, let me just go over here. I took this test scalp over here for a sell, right? This is when the market opened. I took this test trade right here. This ended up losing, but then I ended up taking the other position here for a buy, which ended up winning. And then I stacked that position right here. So I ended up with, you know, about 823 profit off my first account, and then 712 off my other account. So like looking at these here, you know, it actually paid off for me to actually test it. So I have that small loss there and then a huge win on the next one to cover it plus profit. And then I stacked a third position right here for another win as well. So just looking at that there, you know, it just shows you that the market is unpredictable right now, especially looking at these wicks right here. You just don't know what's going to happen. You know, with these huge wicks, price can either correct back up pretty heavily, or it might just shoot right back down. So that's why I'm not really looking to take any trades right now, because the market's just too risky. So this is it for US 30. Let me just go down all of the indices real quick. I'll see if there's any entries for you guys to possibly take. But it doesn't look like there's anything worth taking right here, because if you guys turn off the candles, I mentioned that when the pivots start to cross over like this, it's too risky for you to take these trades. You want to take trades when it's trending like this down here, or when it's trending, you know, in the other direction over here for a buy. This is nice to take trades. You want to avoid this where it's choppy. You want to take sells right here where it's smooth, choppy, smooth, choppy, smooth up, smooth down, smooth up, and then choppy again right here. So I wouldn't take any trades right here because it's just way too choppy for for Aussie 200. So no trades right there. We'll check the next one, the China 50 right here. Wow. So I know there's a couple people in the group that trade this. If you guys caught this trade right here, it looks like a huge little drop. So using the K2 snipe strategy right here, we have the rejection off the K2SR structure and rejection off the pivot. If you took that trade right there, this is the most recent trade. I'm not looking far back here because we're just looking for the most recent trade right here, right? Obviously, if you saw this trade here and you took it, you could have hit full TP right there for about 143 pips if you're trading the China 50. So that's it for that one right there. And you guys can see that the strategy works for everything. It doesn't just work for US 30. It works for all these other indexes as well. This is too choppy, like I mentioned again right here. See how they're crossing over? I wouldn't take these trades. So nothing for the Spain 35. We'll move on to the next one, which is the France 40. Same situation here again, right? Choppiness. We're not going to take these trades here. Move on to the next one, the DAX that we just looked at earlier. So these are, I mean, it's providing for some decent sells right here, but we need to have that rejection off the structure. So what we're looking for here is for price to come up, wick off the structure and the pivot, and then catch that for another sell around this area over here. But until then, there's just no entry for the DAX. Let's move on to the next one over here, the Nikkei, the Japan 225, which is the Nikkei. It's it's the equivalent to their index in Japan. So looking at this right here, I would take some sells if it pushes up and provides for an entry, right? So for this point over here, we have, let me see, we have that there. Have another zone down here. I'm just drawing these zones right here so we can identify these rejection points. So basically for this point right here, if I could see the Nikkei come up, retest the structure and the pivot, like something right there, then we can take a short position from here. But until then, there's just no entries available at this point until, that's confirmed. Let me check this real quick. The most recent entry would have been right here. So let me just mark this up right here. Let me fix that. And I'm just going to show you, the strategy works on all these indexes. It's not just US 30. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that because there's so many trades to take, right? You don't have to just focus on US 30. Although I focus on US 30, if you guys are really, ambitious and want to take all these trades, there's a bunch of entries available. So like for the Nikkei 225 right here, there's no entries because there's no rejection off the pivot in the structure, right? The most recent one would be over here because if you look over here, there's no rejection off pivot and structure. The most recent one would be this one right here. So if you took the same strategy right here, we have the wick rejection off the pivot in the structure. You took a long position right here. Obviously, at the close of this candle, full TP there for about 89 pips, right? Or 890 pips. I'm not sure how this is measured. And you guys can see that, if you're located in Asia and you want to trade the Japan index, you can do that. If you're located in France and you want to trade the French index, you can do that. If you're located in Spain, you want to trade the Spain index, you can trade that. It just really depends on what you want to trade. I personally just trade US 30 because I'm located in the US. but it's really up to you. So here's the DAX. We just looked at that as well. NASDAQ 100. So looking at this over here, let me just draw some structures real quick to see if there was any entries available for this here. So let me just back this up right here. It looks like we have one structure right there. We have another structure down here. We have another structure right here. And then a couple up here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the most recent entry that was, possibly available and see if there was something that you guys could have taken here. So just looking at this here, it looks like the most recent entry would have been, there's nothing from today, but if you took this entry, actually, no, this is from today. Okay, so if we go back here, you guys can see there's no entries that are available here. We're looking for the rejection off the pivot and the structure. The most recent one would have been right over here. And if you took that trade right there, obviously full TP right there for about 262 pips. So, like it just goes to show that, whatever you guys want to trade, you can use this strategy. It works for all the indices. It works for all the Forex pairs. It works for Bitcoin. It works for stocks. It works for everything. So, there's an ability for you to make profit here trading literally anything that you guys want to trade. So that's it for NASDAQ. There's no entry available just yet. Looking at the S&P right here, it looks like the most recent entry would have been this one right here, this red candle. If you took that trade right there, full TP. So you guys can see here, it's universal. The strategy works for everything. Back to UK 100. See if there's an entry here. All right, so there's an entry available right here. I think it's still technically active. And running, if you guys, if whoever took that trade. I don't like trading the UK 100. It's not an asset that I like to trade. I'd rather just trade something like US 30 or something like that. But yeah, if you took this trade right here, this green candle right here would be the most recent entry, right? Because this is where price currently is. And then if you took this trade right here for a short position, you would have hit full TP there for about 80 pips, right? 79 pips to be exact. So you guys can see here that it works all around. It doesn't just work for US 30, it works for everything. Okay, so this might be setting up right here. I'll stay on this live session with you guys for like maybe about 5 minutes because this is when this candle closes. If we have the wick rejection off the pivot and the structure right here, then this could be a nice sell entry that's setting up right here for this specific pair. I mean, we'll wait and see how this plays out. So yeah, if this closes below this structure right here, we have the rejection, then it's gonna provide for a sell entry. So we'll keep watching this for the next 4 minutes. Otherwise, I think that's about it. I've looked at all the indices. I've looked at all the Forex pairs. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out and then I can analyze it for you. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna be calling it a day. We've been on the session for about 2 hours now. So, the market's just moving too slow and there's not really much for us to look at right now. And I'm probably going to chill out until like later tonight anyways, because there's just not really many good entries. If this closes, I'll take this entry. That's something I'll take. Other than that, I think I'm going to sit out until 10 p.m. my time for the next Forex trades. And then I'll probably be looking for some scalps around that time as well. So let me check the chat real quick. Nice. Merciful said taking profits off US 30. And yeah, Merciful said, yeah, even if you look at the daily time frame on US 30, past days have been kind of ugly. I agree. And when the market's ugly, you guys should just sit out the market. You guys don't have to force trades every single time because there just isn't really much to really look at. You don't want to force trades and then risk losing a trade when you could have just sat it out and waited for the market to smoothen out. Obviously I'm here to make money. So if we see some entries available right now, I'm going to take this. If not, then we're just going to hold off for the next couple hours for the next Forex entries to be sent out. Definitely, Alejandro. Nice having you here, Alex. I know you're brand new, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in our sessions every day. As we continue to take on these markets throughout this week. So I'm just going to wait a few more minutes, 3 minutes for this candle to close. If it ends up closing, I'll take a sell. I'm probably going to take a test lot, not nothing too crazy, just like a standard lot, which is equivalent to a mini lot on normal pairs. And then I'll just let it run. I'll let it run, see how it plays out. If it ends up flopping like the last one, I'll take the other direction and then we'll just, keep stacking from there. But other than that, guys, I think that's it for the questions. Let me just finish this and wait for this to finish closing out. We got about 2 minutes left on this candle. When this ends up closing, we'll just we'll see how this plays out and we'll call it a day. let me just log off the Instagram real quick. All right, so let me just check out the Instagram live. So I got a couple of questions here. So let's see. Sorry guys, if you guys were asking questions here, I probably didn't see them because I don't look at this at the same time. I need to figure out a way to get these shared over to the to my computer so I can actually take a look at them. So let's see. Hey Rob. Yeah, Rob, I use the same indicators for everything, not just Forex and indices. So we're waiting for this to close right here, guys. We have about 1 minute left on this candle. If this closes below the structure right here, like if this body closes below the structure, I'll take the sell right here, and then we'll let it run. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this this live on Instagram. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. It's been a while since I've set this up. So let me just get this. And I'm waiting for this. We have about a minute left anyway, so no rush. Got a minute left. I'm just gonna copy this. This description here for the Instagram live. Put this in the title. We got about 45 seconds left on this candle. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, if it doesn't play out, it's fine. We're not going to force any trades. It is Sunday, so we got to wait for the market to stabilize anyways. But I'm going to be ready for some more trades come full market open. All right, so I think that's it for this. I'm posting this on the Instagram real quick. Should be good to go. We got about 20 seconds left on this candle, guys. We'll see how this closes, and then we'll decide whether we want to take this trade or not. All right, we got about 10 seconds left on this candle. We'll see where it closes. Let's see. All right, we got 3, 2, 1. All right, enter this trade, guys. So I entered a scalp right here. Currently in the scalp, if you guys want to take it, here are the parameters for this. Let's see, there we go. So there's the parameters for this trade right here, guys. I'm going to set it up on my own account right now. Let's see. You can hate MC4, guys. I entered the trade and I don't know if it filled or not. Whatever. My MC4 didn't fill, so I'm not in the trade. If you guys want to take it, you guys are more than welcome. I'm not going to enter the trade late. MC4 sucks. I literally I had this open like this whole time. It's all good. Well, I didn't take the trade, guys. If you guys want to take it, you guys can, but I'm not taking it on my own account. So I think that's about it for now, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out on Telegram. Otherwise, I'm going to keep an eye on these charts for the next 4-hour candle close in about an hour or so, or about 2 hours actually. And then I'll be calling the next Forex pairs. But other than that, I'm going to chill because the market is still bouncing back and forth. But yeah, so if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like the stream and follow the YouTube channel, that'll be great. So we can continue to find more people that need help trading. And other than that, I'll catch you guys here for the next live session tomorrow morning at about 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we will be taking on the market for some more US 30 scalps. So other than that, guys, thanks for showing up. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. If you guys did, go ahead and like the stream if you guys haven't already. And I'll catch you guys here back next week. I'm not next week, tomorrow morning. So other than that, guys, I'll catch you guys later, and I'll be